everyone. We're here for another podcast episode. And what we would like to share with you today is my family's recipe for Cappellacci. Cappellacci are a specific first course in Ferrara, and it's actually also ruled by a whole set of rules. It's called disciplinare, which means that in order to be called as such, especially commercially wise, they have to follow the specific instructions in that set of rules. Let's call it that. So these are a bigger version of cappelletti, bigger than tortellini, but the stuffing is only made with butternut squash, nutmeg, parmigiano, and, if need be, breadcrumbs, plain, unflavored breadcrumbs. The thing you have to pay attention is that the butternut squash doesn't get too soggy. So the best ways to cook it are in the oven, cut in half, you scoop out the seeds, and then you just cook it as is, and that will make way easier to get the pulp out of it. You can also cook it in the microwave, and again, I would cut it in half because the top part will take a little longer to cook than the bottom part, which has the hole for the seeds. Plus, if you cook it whole, make sure to poke the skin, just like with potatoes, because otherwise, just like with potatoes, it explodes. Once the butternut squash is cooked, you just pull out the pulp, and then you put it in a bowl and let it dry. You could also cook it in a skillet or in a pan. You can re-chop it, but all of this would require you to peel the squash when it's raw, and it becomes much more complicated. I mean, if you can skip a step, why not simplify your life? Then, once it's at room temperature, you blend it or you squish it. You just have to make it into a cream. And that's when you add the the nutmeg and the parmigiano. At that point, you decide if it's a little bit too wet, you add the plain breadcrumbs. Then you make your egg dough, cut in larger squares, kind of like ravioli size, and then you fold it in triangle, pinch the bottom, the points, and then add them and connect them, attach them together. I will put the link to my Cappelletti video where you can see actually how to close them. You're just gonna do that on a larger scale because they're Cappellacci, so big ones, and not Cappelletti. The best way to serve it, at least in my opinion, is with a very rich, dense meat sauce. They are also served with butter and sage, but in my opinion, with a meat sauce, you have the very savory flavor of the meat sauce combined with the sweet stuffing of the Cappellacci and a generous dusting of very good parmigiano. My mom always tells me, if you're making something like that, so with a stuffing that could be a little bit wetter than other ones, instead of breadcrumbs, to use instant mashed potato flakes, the plain one, because they are virtually tasteless. They have a bigger absorbing power compared to breadcrumbs, so you will end up using less with the same result. And it will not impair the flavor of the butternut squash. Now, remember, if you want to follow the rules, you're not using the potato flakes. If you want to tweak it a little bit on your preference, then you can. I will be linking the recipe, the written recipe of the Cappellacci. I didn't make a video, but I will, as said, link the video of the Cappelletti so you can see the closing phases. They are pretty much identical, again, except for the size. You're looking at a square of dough that it's about a little less than a couple inch per side. So the other thing is this type of stuffing tends to wet the dough. So you cannot make them too much in advance like you can do with the Cappelletti. I mean, I make the Cappelletti the day before, and if you turn them properly, they dry enough to withstand a day. But these ones, I make them the day of. Actually, the morning of for lunch, the afternoon of for dinner, unless you freeze them. But even in that case, you have to make sure you don't leave them in the freezer too long. 2-3 months are fine, but not too long, because otherwise the dough tends to crack, because we don't have a super fast freezer in our homes. So the stuffing has the time to wet the dough, which is why the dough cracks. The other way you can avoid this is by blanching them a minute in hot boiling water, and then let them dry, let them cool at room temperature, and then freeze them when they have pretty much lost all of the water. That way you are kind of safe from dough cracking, but I mean, it takes a little bit of attempts before you find your best way of doing it. So if you decide to give it a try, let me know. If you have any questions before giving it a try, just write them, comment on Facebook, comment over here. Make sure you ask me everything you want to know, and I will make sure to reply. If you make them, let me know how they turned out, if you had any issues, what issues you had, and we will work on this together. So we will get together soon with another episode, and ciao!